because at the time we'd finished the album. It was in the stage of being pressed on vinyl and everything, and then we had to re-record everything, and then obviously it took years, but we just wanted to get it out. We needed to. You know, if we didn't, it wouldn't have justified all the hard work everyone put into it.
Welcome to the Spencer Whiteout podcast. Rated R.
You have some criminal charges with you, bro. It's like we're avoiding the shark. We'll call it leather fetish.
No, great turbo neck guy.
I'll give you a kiss. You give me your number.
That checked out a ton, dude. Tell me you felt it.
We're Americans. We're the ones that are descendants from the 1776 musket-bearing motherfuckers.
Welcome back to the Spencer Whiteout podcast, where we collect experiences as badges, memories as treasures, and stories as wealth. Today, I interview Damon of the Australia metalcore band Gravemind. We talk all about their formation, live shows, and the process of creating their epic new album, Introsphere. Let's dive in. Dude, so I've been following you guys since Lifelike, and when Conduit came out, it was one of my favorite albums of 2019, and for me, that was a really memorable summer because I had just moved to LA, and so Conduit, North Lane Alien, Knocked Loose, A Different Shade of Blue, those were like my soundtrack for the whole summer, so I really look back on that as like a nostalgic time in my life.
Yeah, that's sick, dude. I love when music hits like that. Like, when you've got a... like a specific memory you can tie to something like that. It's so good. I love that.
Yeah, awesome. For sure, dude. So what got you into heavy music and how did Gravemind form?
Oh, heavy music. So I was very big into like rock for ages. Like I would always listen to Metallica, Guns N' Roses and whatever when I was young. And I would listen to like Muse and Queens of the Stone Age religiously. And I would always like come into heavy music just thinking like, what the fuck is this trash? It just sounds awful. Can't do it. Can't do the vocals. And I think I just like slowly integrated through, I think August Burns Red was the first one. And that was a massive band for my youth. And I think Parkway Drive came after that because I remember a friend showing me Romance is Dead. And I was like, dude, never show me that again. That was awful. And then I was like, a week later, I'm just like, oh, actually, like, I maybe want to hear it again because that was kind of sick. And then, yeah, it just sort of grew from there. Yeah, like Gravemind started with, because we, with Dylan and Aiden, so our previous vocalist and Aiden on guitar, we were in a metalcore band through like year 12 and until we were probably like 19, 20 years old. Not a very good band, so I wouldn't go looking it up.
We'll keep that classified.
Yeah,
classified.
Yeah, we was sort of just like playing shows, crappy little 10-people gigs, and a couple of them decided, because we all lived in Tasmania, a little state in Australia down the bottom, we decided to move up to Melbourne, and, you know, with the goal of trying to make music and trying to do something with it. And the band sort of fell apart because, you know, it wasn't that good and we weren't getting that many opportunities. And Dylan came to me and said he wants to do something deathcore. And I was like, yeah, I'll think about it, because like I was super into bands like Fit for an Autopsy and Die Art and stuff. And yeah, eventually I just started writing demos and they sounded pretty cool. I think the first one I wrote was Scriptures of Torment, which is just like a heavy beat down sort of track. And yeah, we met up at a festival and sort of just made the plans from there, and that's pretty much it. Rest is history.
Yeah, so talk to me about moving to Melbourne. You said you moved up there to pursue music. That sounds like a really big decision.
Yeah, it was big, because at the time, I think all of us were about 20 years old, so we're pretty fresh. And the thing about Tassie is that there's no opportunities because it's just like a smaller state in Australia, and it's very country sort of, you know, you've got 2 bars in a town sort of thing. So it's like very, very tight-knit community, and it was just, you know, very hard to get a foot up trying to like do anything there. So we just thought that was our best chance of trying to make anything, trying to, you know, succeed in any capacity. And yeah, we just didn't really think or care about, you know, how we would survive or like, you know, what would happen after the fact. It was just that we wanted to have fun and we wanted to just make music and, you know, do what kids do.
So you move up there, was school involved, or did you just move up into an apartment and get normal jobs and then just be grinding out on the music?
Pretty much, yeah. Because like all of our families still live down in Tassie. So we were just up, like I think Dylan moved in with Aiden and then Aiden moved out and I moved in with Aiden. So I ended up living with Aiden for like 7 years. So yeah, it was just like mates in apartments, just, yeah, trying to hustle. We all had jobs that we worked very hard at, and yeah.
That's awesome, man. Pursuing the dream. And we're going to get into some of the roadblocks and challenges. It's not easy, man. So stoked on the new album. I can't wait to get into it. But first, I want to ask about some of the best and worst live shows.
Oh, man. Best show, there's definitely been a few that have stuck in my mind. The one I love looking back at the most would be when we supported North Lane in Townsville. Tiny little place in North Queensland, like the very top of Australia. And we turned up there and, you know, sort of like a band that didn't have a very big reputation at that point. And the room was like obviously filled for North Lane, but to see just hundreds of people packed in there and they were all just like so engaged with the music and like just jumping up like crazy. And it was such a mental reaction that it just sticks in my brain because I was like, that was peak, because that just feels so sick to see that many people that are so into it. So definitely that one. But we played our headline show off the Conduit tour. So that was pretty late. I think that was like in the middle of COVID, because in Australia we had restrictions lift for like 3 or 4 months. And in that time we managed to sneak in this little like 5 or 6 show tour, just jam it in there and sold as many tickets as we possibly could. And I think it ended up being maybe like 700 tickets to our Melbourne headline show. Yeah, after being locked away, you know, locked inside for so long, it was just like such a relief and it felt so good to play a good show in front of so many fans. It was like, yeah, really heartwarming, you know. But in terms of worst shows, probably like Unify. I don't know if you know the festival in Australia.
Yeah, I do.
Because we have a bit of a reputation of having our backing rig just shit itself completely. So it's happened, I don't know how many times, like probably half a dozen, I reckon. But like it always happens on the biggest shows. So we're playing Unify and there's like, you know, thousands of people watching you. And we had our backing rig set up, like runs the set perfectly. We're like, all right, no dramas. We tested it the night before, tested it with our visualizers that we'd set up. And we're like, yep, all good. Everything's fine. We get up on stage. The visualizers just cark it completely, like just don't work. And then it somehow just like wrecks the backing rig and it just stops. We had to cut our set to like 3 songs, and one of the songs we played twice. And it was just like total disaster. I try to block it out as much as possible, but it's still there. It was horrible.
But I heard you got one of the biggest circle pits going in that short time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that counts for something.
The crowd was doing the heavy lifting for sure. They're absolute troopers when it's Unified, but yeah, it was still pretty painful.
All right, so let's talk about the writing process. So I'm a filmmaker and I love to ask this question because I tend to get inspired to write film by music, and I'm wondering if there's any movies that have inspired you to write music.
So that's a good question. I like a lot of Hans Zimmer, a lot of his stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
Blade Runner 2049 is like one of the best soundtracks ever.
I haven't seen that. I really want to watch it because I watched the original Blade Runner.
You need to watch it.
Yeah, I watched the original recently and I was like, it's pretty good actually for like a movie that's so old. And I wanted to watch the new one, but it's so long. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the only track I can really pinpoint some sort of like atmospheric inspiration from was Tenet. Not my favorite film, but the soundtrack was just like so eerie and so well done. And yeah, there's this track that's like got this off time sort of like drum hit sort of thing going on. And I was like, I've started to use a lot of synths like that just for production layers, just because they're so weird and they just sort of fill out such an eerie atmosphere so well. But I get a fair bit of inspiration from video games as well, because I've sort of dipped into the writing space of doing video games, learning about how you create music in that medium. So like not so much film, but yeah, definitely games.
Which games?
Well, Doom, obviously, but like,
yeah, obviously.
Definitely like Final Fantasy. I'm a big fan of that. I like to do a lot of symphonic stuff. BioShock is a big one. I made a live intro for Gravemind back in the day that used something from BioShock Infinite. And yeah, just like any game I play, I just dive into the soundtrack of it. I love it.
If you could replace any movie soundtrack or video game soundtrack with Gravemind's tunes, which one would it be?
Which one? I'd go something left field. Like something like Shawshank
A rom-com,
Redemption or something.
That would be hardcore when they're escaping through the, the prison.
Just like
It's just
brutal
Gravemind.
screams. Awesome. Something dystopian. It could be something like a Blade Runner or like a cyberpunk-ish setting. I reckon.
Halo.
Yeah, probably that would be fitting. But
Yeah.
like, I'm not a big Halo fan, but all the other boys are.
Oh,
so, yeah.
dude, we gotta end this call right now.
I'm sorry.
I'm a huge Halo fan.
I wasn't an Xbox kid.
No, it's all good. Hey, so tell me about your writing process, just in general. Like, how do you normally go about structuring songs, and how do they come to life?
The process has changed over the years. I think as I've learnt a bit more, I've sort of become more confident in my own ways about how I do it. But I come from Guitar Pro. I was a massive Guitar Pro kid back in the day. For anyone who doesn't know, it's just like a tablature software that, you know, you just write in notes and it plays it for you in MIDI. So I would do that as a kid. I would just write songs flat out, and I started doing that for a few of the songs on the first EP for Gravemind, but then I learnt how to record properly and do stuff like that over time. And when it came to the Deathgate EP, that was the first time that I had really properly used a producer in Scottie from Alpha Wolf, and he's just like, all right, do some riffs. So I did, and we smashed out Lifelike in probably like 6 hours, I think. Like, wrote the whole song. We even recorded vocals on it in that same day. And then we're like, oh man, like this is really good creative process. So we just wanted to continue that. And we did the exact same with Conduit. Basically, like, I would just go to his house, 1 day sessions. We'd just do one song until the album was done. And we actually had a pretty limited time frame on Conduit. So all those songs were written in, I think, like 2 months. So it was like such a squashed process that we just had to get it done as quickly as possible, and we didn't really have a lot of freedom for revision or anything. And then the same process happened for Introsphere, and this time we had as much time and freedom as possible to get everything done. And I think it resulted in a better product because we were able to revise it. So I was just sitting there doing riffs every day, as many songs as I could pump out. And yeah, that was the product. But since then, I've just gone into producing myself, and I think it holds up just as well, to be honest.
Yeah, right on. Dude, so like I said, I mean, Lifelike was when I first heard of you guys, and well, one, I loved the video. It was very pink and red, and so I loved the color scheme, but I loved the ending breakdown specifically because it's just so off the wall, all over the place. There's all these, you know, weird digital effects and stuff. Yeah, how did that track come to be, especially like the ending breakdown and stuff, because it's very unique?
I think so. The overall feel of Lifelike was that I'm a very big Veil of Maya fan, and I used to just play their songs flat out, and I was just sort of like locked into that whole, you know, little diddly kind of riff structure that he does. So I wanted to do something like that myself and just get a bit weird and just, experiment, because it makes songs more fun and they feel a lot fresher when there's something that sort of pricks your ears up and you're like, oh, like, what was that? That was sick. But the end of that song, I think, because we were stuck and we're just like, oh, we don't know what to put here. So we just took, I think, the start of the song at the end, and I was just like, Scottie, just slow it down 30 BPM. So he just chucked it in there and we're just like, oh, that was sick, dude. Like, that was awesome. That's it. So that's pretty much it. Just slow down the tempo.
There you go. That reminds me of Sworn In Scissors. Do you know that song?
I wasn't a fan of their second album. Massive fan of the first one.
Yeah, same. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the second album either, but Scissors is an incredible track, and same thing. The ending is like kind of just a slowed down version, and then it's all chopped up and glitchy and all these effects going, and it's super sick. So it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, no, I love tracks like that. Something to just like sort of bend your mind a little bit. They're awesome.
That's right. And it's cool too, because I remember becoming a huge fan of Lance Prenc around this time, just because his mixes are so good. And there was a band called Archive, and they released this EP called Sonder. That was the first time I heard Lance Prenc like mix something, and I was like, this is crazy. And I searched him out, and so I started following, all the stuff that he was mixing. And he's an incredible producer, and he just makes the mixes sound so heavy. And it's kind of funny though, because like listening back to Lifelike and then going to Conduit, it's like even just in a 2-year time period, the mixes got so much better. Like he just improved so much. So what can you talk about with working with Lance?
Oh yeah, dude's incredible. He's such a chiller too. So he's just got like a crazy producer brain. But with the Hateful one, our first EP, he did that, and I think that was either his first or second release a producer, like a mix and master. Yeah, it was crazy because we'd come from a very small place. We didn't know anyone, and we just got this connection, and we're like, oh yeah, Lance can do it for like $1,000 to record, mix, master, everything. So we're like, oh sick, let's just get it done. And yeah, he came out with that, so we stuck with him for a fair while, and we would only work with him in a mix and master capacity for most of it. I think Introsphere was the only one where we recorded guitars with him, because we would always record with Scottie and then just send it to Lance. But Lance would always do our drums on Conduit and Introsphere as well. But yeah, he's just really efficient, just a really great dude. And he just made it very easy for me to record everything on Introsphere. I think we were just smashing out tracks in half a day, and then we'd just go and chill. And it was awesome.
That's epic. I met him actually when he came and toured with Alpha Wolf. He was like doing their live mix, and I met him at Chain Reaction. It was rad. I was like one of the only people that knew who he was, obviously, but I'm like, are you Lance? And he's all like, yeah. So that was really cool. And then I'm trying to get him on the podcast. We've been talking about it a little bit, because I'd love to pick his brain just about all the bands he's worked with and stuff. Specifically Diamond Construct. Angel Killer Zero is like my album of the year, and he mixed that one, and it's just like, yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know how you begin to balance all those electronics and everything going on. Did you hear that album?
Yeah, I've heard it. I do love the DC boys, but yeah, it's so intense. It's just like so full on. Listening to that, I'm just like, oh man, I need a break. But no, like those guys are awesome.
I love it. Okay, so let's get into the deeper territory, man. So what led to the lineup change decision? Obviously, this was a huge turning point for the band. Yeah,
I think just like, COVID was a very rough time on all of us. Like we were locked inside in Melbourne. We had a curfew and everything. Like we couldn't legally go outside for like probably 9 months out of the year. So everyone was just like, getting a bit stir crazy and a bit down. So I think, Dylan was just, he's going through his own problems. So he just wasn't feeling it anymore. It was the same with Mick. Like the heart wasn't in it, and they just wanted to bail pretty much. So it was tough. It was definitely a really rough sort of it's like, I want to say 6 to 12 months, honestly, because we obviously had to deal with everything after the fact, and Dylan was a big part of the band management side of everything, and it was just sort of passed on down to me, and I would try and pass it on to Carl, our drummer, and yeah, it was like a little bit messy, but it was tough, but we've got through on the other side, so eventually. But it did lead to pretty substantial delay in the album re-recording of Bailey's vocals and, you know, remixing those in and everything. So yeah, it's just tough.
Yeah, and you can't force somebody's heart to be in it, like you said. You can only pressure someone so much to like get them to perform or cooperate or be like, we're making this thing together. But if they don't want to do it, no matter how much you push them, like you can't force it at the end of the day, and you don't want to. I mean, especially with, you know, you guys being a big band and everything and wanting to release an album, like there's so much that goes into it. There's touring, there's music videos, there's this and that, there's all this stuff. It's a huge commitment. And so, yeah, like you said, if their heart's not in it, it's like you can't force it, and you want to work with people that are on the same page, that have the same vision, that want to keep going with you.
Yeah, 100%. That's right. We don't want to force it because, you know, we're good friends at the end of the day, and we don't want to just like create a divide over someone's health, pretty much. Like, at the end of the day, you just want your friends to be happy and you want them to succeed in their own way. So no, it was one of those things that like we moved on, and we're very happy with having Bailey. So it's, you know, it's worked out. He's a killer vocalist. Yeah.
So what made you want to stick with it? Obviously, there would be every reason to give it up, to move on. What made you want to keep going?
I think because we knew that our album was something that we really enjoyed personally. We thought that it was a good album, and we wanted to get it out there. That was our main goal, because at the time we had finished the album, essentially, like it was in the stage of being pressed on vinyl and everything. And then obviously Dylan and Mick left, and we were like, oh fuck, like it's a big step back, and we had to re-record everything. And then, yeah, like obviously it took years, but yeah, we just wanted to get it out. We needed to, you know, if we didn't, it wouldn't have justified all the hard work everyone put into it.
Yeah, true. And so how was that with recruiting Bailey? How did you guys go about that?
We had vocalist auditions. We kind of stole the idea off North Lane, because I don't know if you remember back in the day.
Oh, I remember. Yeah. I was a huge Adrian fan. And I actually didn't really like Marcus for the first two albums, Node and Mesmer.
Yeah.
I don't know. But then Alien hit, and I was like, holy crap. And they just went to like one of my top spots. I love everything they've done since then. So they won me over. It took a while.
He definitely killed it. I think a lot of people felt the same way. Like, you know, like the younger generation of the time was like, oh, come on, man. Adrian was the sickest.
What did you think?
I was a big Adrian fan. I liked Marcus in Rot, the single version.
Right, the mix is so much better.
Yeah,
what did they do? 100%. Dude, I still am upset about that.
I know. I listened to that single version. I was like, oh man, maybe they're actually going to be like even better. And then that album came out, and I was sort of like, oh, you know, it's fine, but like it's not what I wanted.
Right.
But yeah, our process was pretty much the same. We just basically held a audition, sort of saying like, you know, email the band if you want to be on this list or whatever. And we just gave all these guys an audition for Lifelike, basically to just recreate the song, you know, keep the same structure, add your own flair sort of thing. So we took the best entrance from that and then gave them Death Touch. And we just said, you know, this one's just start from scratch, write your own song. So we got, I think, like 7 or 8 into that stage, and Bailey was by far the standout, because the version that he gave us was like essentially the released version of the song. So we were like, oh man, this dude's got some serious chops. He can sing and he can scream and he's got crazy range. And yeah, just went from there. Like, that was pretty much it. We heard his and we're like, all right, that's it. There's none better.
Yeah, that's awesome. So recording Introsphere with Lance, with Scottie and Jeff Dune, how was that? I mean, I want to hear a little bit about kind of having to re-record things, because obviously you recorded pretty much everything with the previous lineup and then you had to redo stuff. So like, what was that conversation like, figuring out, you know, how much of this can we keep and then how much of this needs to change with the addition of Bailey coming in and kind of, you know, doing new lyrics to songs? Did the songs change at all? Talk to me about that.
So yeah, initially we obviously kept all the instrumentals the same. That was all locked in. And then because of the guest features, he didn't have a lot of wiggle room trying to like create a new song based around those lyrics for the features. So we had to keep the lyrics of Fear. So Dylan was just like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Just keep Fear the same. And so we're using Dylan's lyrics for that song, but every other song are Bailey's lyrics. And to his credit, he's done a really good job, because we sort of just gave him rough outlines about what the songs were originally about, just a vibe, not exactly the topic, but we just said, it's sort of about this, so just sort of write whatever you feel. And he crafted the song Anhedonia around Reba's lyrics as well. And yeah, we went back to re-record with Scottie. And even that was a tough process as well, because Scottie's always on tour. So I think, got maybe half of the songs recorded with him, and it was just taking forever, because we'd get one session and he'd be like, all right, I'm going to America or I'm going to Europe or whatever. I'm like, oh, sick. Can't record for another 2 months. And then because Bailey is a producer in his own right, he's like, I'm just going to do it. So we essentially just monitored how he was doing by himself. So he would just like do all of the vocals and then send them to us and we'd revise. And then we had another process where we went to Carl's house, who can also record, and we just had group sessions to try and nail down everything 100%. Like anything we were a bit iffy on, we would just re-record there and get it done. Yeah, so that was the re-recording process. It was very internal for most of it because of Scottie's availability, but yeah.
Yeah, and so March 3rd, 2022 is when Death Touch came out. Super epic comeback, and then it was another year and a half, almost 2 years until Terminal came out. So was that just because, you guys weren't able to record vocals at like a consistent pace? What was going on there?
It was a bit of that. It was a big undertaking for him, because we released Death Touch pretty soon after he did his audition, and then he still had to write the lyrics for all the songs, and then he had to record them. So it was still a pretty big undertaking for him to get done. We've been completed for a while. It was just the fact that I think vinyl production is a bit rough at the moment. So we had to really get everything done ages in advance just to get onto, having vinyl pre-orders come in and all that sort of stuff at the right time. So I think it was like a 6 to 9 month wait. So yeah, we've been done for a while. It was just, a very drawn out process.
Yeah, and having to create like a release strategy and a whole plan. I mean, you guys dropped a lot of music videos, 4 or 5? So that must have been a lot of work too. And like, what was that process like of, doing your release strategy and figuring out when to release and all that stuff?
Well, obviously, like our label Grayscale give us a rough outline. Like we'll say what singles we want and they'll go, okay, we'll make it this date, and then a month later and another one, and then a month later another one, so on. But we, as a band, we wanted every song to be a single. We were just like, just make, like, do a Sleep Token, just make it every single song, because we loved every song that much. And like, we have no favorites. We just thought every song could have equally come out as a single and done really well. But like, we've got Carl and Mickey, they both do video. So we had a lot of wiggle room to make cheap videos and to just get as much content out there as we possibly could. And that's what they wanted to do. Like Carl really wanted to get Mick Gordon in a video and he wanted to, like, because he's been messing around with Unreal Engine 5, and he just wanted to create something video gamey, because a lot of the band has revolved around video game references and stuff like that. So to have something like that come through was really sick. And yeah, we were just doing it for the joy of doing it, really.
That's the best place to be, really.
Absolutely.
So tell me, were you guys playing live shows during the last couple years? And also, did you guys see your numbers dip or remain consistent? Because I'm a huge fan, and so like it was tough for me to see you guys not really, you know, putting yourself out there too much, and I was wondering like, what's going on with these guys? Is the album ever coming? You know, so I really cared, and glad that it finally worked out, but I want to hear about that.
So a funny thing about that is that I don't play live shows anymore. So I have been out of playing live since 2022.
Oh,
yeah, personal decision. Just a personal decision. Like, I've moved into a space where my work is taking over my life and doing family stuff. So I feel more comfortable being in a producer space and a writer space. So, you know, like shows, as much as I have some favorites and I love playing shows, I just also hate playing shows. Like like touring, and the mental drain is just a lot. But it was something I didn't really talk about too much because I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. So yeah, I don't play live, but Mickey does. Him and Aiden play live guitars. But the guys are pretty happy with shows and turnouts and how their merch is going and everything. So I don't think they noticed any sort of like massive drop off. It was just an expected slight drop off. They're just like, you know, we understand we haven't done anything in so long. We're just trying to keep everything above water while we're having this sort of musical drought. So I think they did really well. They're just booking shows whenever they could and just hustling, really, just as much as they possibly could until this album came out, and they'll really benefit off the back of that.
There you go. I want to get into this album. It's really incredible. Let's talk about it track by track. Terminal is the first one. This one kind of touches on themes of digital disconnection, reality existence. I wanted to hear about your take on this track. Lyrically or instrumentally? Anything. Okay, because lyrically I got no idea. Yeah, okay, instrumentally. Terminal, as a track, I definitely drew a lot of inspiration from Tony Danza, Tap Dance Extravaganza. I'm a big Josh Travis fan, and I was just listening to a lot of like Glass Cloud and Tony Danza, and I just wanted riffs. Like, I think of the riff in like 2 minutes into the song, it's just like groovy as, but it's all just like, I call it like the train riff. It's just coming at you. It's one of my favorites just because of how riffy it is. It's definitely like a Veil of Maya style song, and it's a fun song. Yeah, we'll talk about the music video, and I read that you guys were using some of the original footage, and then you had to reshoot stuff with the new lineup and like merge it together, and I'm like, dude, that is crazy. I would have never known that it was two separate shoots. So talk about that. So we recorded that back in, would have been 2021 or 2020, and we got our whole performance in, and then all of the narrative stuff as well. And that was all like basically just sitting there for probably 2 years, just unused, because Ed, who was the director, he just thought it was dead in the water. So he just left the product there. And because we'd already paid money for this, we wanted to get a result from it. We didn't want to just waste our money on a video that's not going to get used. So we figured we had to do Terminal as a music video still. And we re-recorded Performance, and I think even like some of the sections where Bailey's in it narratively, they might have like CG'd him in over Dylan, because they're like, you know, they're similar looking people, so they're just like, whatever, it's fine. They're kind of similar sounding too. Like, I don't know if casual fans would notice like a difference in vocalist. I mean, obviously they have some distinct features and stuff, but like they have a similar range, which is kind of cool, and it fits the style. Definitely. We didn't want to stray too far from how Dylan sounded when we were searching for a vocalist, and Bailey just felt like
no disrespect to Dylan, because I think he's a fantastic vocalist, but Bailey felt like a level up, a new version. So no, he killed it, definitely. But the video was, pretty much that, just sort of reshooting certain scenes with different members in it and tying it all together.
That's epic, dude. Now let's talk about track 2, Death Touch. We already kind of touched on this a little bit, but anything else to say about this track?
It was the first song that I wrote for the album. We wrote it the month Conduit came out. Like, it was that quick from, we released that album, then we're like, all right, let's just get into writing. And then Death Touch came out, and I had the chorus written at home, because this sounds like super wanky, but the chorus came to me in a dream.
That's awesome, man.
I fully had this dream about this chorus. I was like, oh man, it sounds like Loathe in my head. Like, I need to just tab this out or whatever. And I put it onto paper, and I was like, oh man, this is sick. Like, it actually works. And we just sort of integrated that chorus into a heavy digital sort of song. And that song felt personally like the next step onwards from a song like Lifelike. It sort of felt like a spiritual successor rather than just something after Conduit. It felt like bringing a certain sound back that we didn't really use on that album.
Yeah. And then track number 3, House of Cards, dude, this one is really chaotic. One of the craziest intro riffs I've ever heard. It's so fast, technical, ridiculous. And to me, this one does channel some of that Diamond Construct vibe. How crazy it is.
I definitely love that song. There used to be these female choirs in the start of it as well. And we took that out because it didn't match the song lyrically. So it used to be even sicker, to be honest. But that song, I think we really love it. It's weird. It's got a lot of heavy octave moments in it, like that breakdown in the middle. I remember using I think a pitchfork and a swollen pickle pedal that was just we just tried to make it sound as messed up as possible, because Lance would just have 8 pedals sitting on the floor and he'd just turn on random ones as he felt like it. So that song is sick. The only thing I don't like is the end. I am strongly against the end of that song. I remember writing it, and Scottie was like, oh dude, it's awesome, it's just mosh. And I was like, no, I hate this. I hate mosh. I hate, I can't put this in. And everyone else was like, no, keep it. So I got overruled. So begrudgingly, the end of that song exists. But hey,
it is what it is. Track number 4, Rorschach, Watchmen reference. I wanted to know what was in the intro, sample. What was that?
That was Rorschach. So it was, I can't remember what quote it was, but it was from Watchmen, and it was I think pitched down or slowed down or something. I think Carl put it in, and he just wanted to make it sound sort of as distorted and unintelligible as possible. He just, can't really pinpoint exactly where it's from. It was just something to sort of fill out the space and make it sound kind of eerie and creepy. But that song's actually a favorite guitar-wise, because it's so intense and riffy. And I took a lot of inspiration on that track from the second half of it, specifically from Fit for an Autopsy. And there's a riff in the middle of it that's crazy chaotic. I took that, I didn't rip it off, but I took inspiration from Valiance, which an old band from Melbourne, and they're a big deathcore band from Melbourne that were just so crazy and cool. And a lot of inspiration of that track comes from them.
I love the ending lyrics where it says, I wear 1,000 masks. Which do you see? Does that say more of you or more of me? So epic, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome. The end of that song hits so hard. I love it.
Let's talk about track number 5. How do you pronounce this one again?
Anhedonia.
What does that even mean, bro?
Don't know.
I don't know. Just made it up.
Again, all these track names apart from Fail State were Dylan's names. And Dylan was very spiritualistic in that sense. Like he'd just come up with all these
He's
weird...
a poet.
Yeah, tortured poet. So he'd come up with all these weird names and be like, it actually means this if you think about it. I'm like, nah, man, I don't care. Like
if you turn it upside down and translate it.
Yeah, 100%. But that song, because we use our standard tuning of like it's drop A sharp with a low D sharp at the moment on a 7-string. At least like 1 or 2 songs on an album we try and use our other guitar setup, which is drop G sharp on a 7-string, which is significantly different. And it just creates a different mood, and it just gives you a bit more freedom and flexibility to make like a more melodic song. So yeah, we wrote that and it just, grooved. So we're into it. It's in a weird timing. It's like 5/4 and then 3/4, 4/4 for most of it. And yeah, it's still heavy though. Like I love that track. I love the end.
Yeah, I mean, this song has such a cool balance between the melody and then the straight up aggression. And that was something really cool about this album is like there isn't any particular soft song besides maybe Alloy, but it's like there's softer moments sprinkled throughout, but then the songs get heavy again, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, and that's sort of the balance that I'm trying to find as I write more music, because obviously, I think we're not going to turn into like a rock band or anything. We're not going to go super light and just have clean guitars going forward. But it's good to have that balance of, a tastefulness, I guess, of like having these moments that don't just berate your ears for 4 minutes straight. So yeah, we're sort of moving more into that space of just trying to be better songwriters. And yeah, I think songs like Anadonia and Aloy are products of that, which is great.
Yeah, and talk about the feature on this track.
Reba was so hard to get a hold of. I remember because Dylan originally was like, it has to be a female vocalist because it's about a relationship or something, and it's supposed to be from her perspective, because we had connections to like talk to her agent, and originally they didn't want to do it. And I think we asked like Courtney from Spirit Box as well. And she was like, no, I've done too many features recently. I can't do it. I'm like, oh, far out. So we ended up going, we're just pestering Reba. I think Dylan asked her agent like 10 times. And eventually they was like, yes, I'll do it. But just, don't make it a single or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. Just get it done. So we got her in there, and yeah, I think she did a good job, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song and cool feature. I'm not normally a fan of like female vocals in metal, but this one I was like, this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I think it helps because she's a lot more grungy in her voice. She's very like raspy, and she can scream as well. So it's like, it sort of fits our mold a bit more.
Yeah, so let's talk about track number 6, Fail State. This one is obviously legendary, working with Mick Gordon, the composer of the Doom soundtrack. If Reba was hard to get a hold of, how the heck did you get a hold of Mick Gordon, dude?
That was easy, actually, because Dylan, back in the day, like after Doom came out, he did a cover of BFG Division, and Mick saw it and was like, oh, dude, this is sick. Awesome job. And Dylan was like, oh, you should feature on one of our songs one day. And he's like, yeah, for sure, we'll tee it up. And we sort of just forgot about that because we were hustling and just in the middle of making an album, and we wrote Fail State and recorded it, and Scottie was going to do the production on it, but then we were like, maybe we should call up Mick, get him to handle the production side of this song and see if he'll do it. And yeah, just Dylan emailed him, and straight away it was like, yeah, so keen, let's do it. And he got back to us in like a week, I think. And he just, nailed the production, just like gave us all of these crazy synth players and said, use as many or as little as you want. Just like, here's the structure of how I've put them in, and like the start and the end and all the bits in between. So yeah, just use that.
And then how did you get him in the music video?
That was Carl, because Mick lives up in Brisbane, which is in Queensland, a couple of states up. And we got him because Carl wanted to do the video, and he had that idea. He's like, I want to get him in a video. I think it would be sick. And it would pop off if he at the end of the video, he just like pulls down his hood and it's him, and everyone's like, oh shit, it's Mick Gordon. That's awesome. So I think we were working with Colin Jeffs doing a couple of music videos, and Colin lives in Brisbane as well. So Carl messaged him and just said, we'll pay you to go travel to where Mick is, get in a studio for a day and just film him playing a video game. So that's pretty much how that went down.
That's so awesome, man. That's seriously one of the coolest videos I've seen in a long time. Colin Jeffs makes incredible work. He did Switchblade OST by Diamond Construct, one of my other favorite videos. So yeah, super sick stuff, man. And talk about the video game that was in the music video.
That was all Carl. What I mentioned before with him working with Unreal Engine, he just got whatever assets he needed and just sort of created the world and just ran renders through whatever you see in the music video. Carl's an absolute nut. Like, that dude will just find something that interests him and then he'll become a master of it in like 3 months. It's crazy. So yeah, that's just all him.
And let's talk about track number 7, True Life. This one has an epic guitar solo, kind of rare, but yeah, we got a guitar solo in there. And then the double bass just goes insane by the end of the song. I love the lyrics, create the world you wish to see, because that kind of reminded me of my favorite song off Conduit, which was 0 Point Energy, when the lyrics go, we are the existence we choose.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That never clicked with me, but that's sick. It was originally a demo that I don't think a lot of us were fans of. So we had like a fairly basic version of that song that we'd written. And close to the end of the writing process, we're like, all right, we're just going to try and salvage this one, I guess. And we just rewrote a lot of the sections, made them a bit more intricate and a bit more moody and like connected to make it actually sound like a fluent track. So that one was one where we were consciously thinking we want to still dip into that deathcore space a little bit, because we didn't really touch it too much on Conduit, but we were like, let's go back to the roots a little bit and just write something like super heavy. So we ended up getting that song done without a solo. And then when it came to the recording process, like, I didn't want to write a solo because I just could not be bothered. And we finished recording the song and Lance was like, all right, solo time, let's get it done. And I just grabbed Aiden and I was like, all right, you're sitting here because you can like actually shred. So I basically sat there and just like tabbed out a solo with him and we wrote that and he just, shredded it, played it well. And yeah, that was it. It was pretty much just an on-the-spot thing.
Nice. Love that. And then talk about track number 8, Alloy, being kind of a power ballad, and the music video and everything about this track.
The video, I forget what it's about. It's like Bailey, I think it's about his family or something. I don't know. But the video is great. I love the video. It's very like epic. Just them like performing in a field. It's awesome. But the song itself was very Loathe inspired and Silent Planet. Like, I'm a massive Silent Planet fan. And I think like the 2 Loathe albums are 2 of the best albums ever written. So I'm just a massive sweater for that. And I wanted to make something that was sort of in that vein of being, like super, still heavy in that breakdown section, but just really like melodic and out there, and just like something that really got you going emotionally. So, yeah.
What are the scientists doing?
I don't know. I've got no idea. They're just putting patches on his kids because those are Bailey's kids. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's honestly, you'd have to ask Bailey because I've got no idea. I just sit there and write the music, man. I just let him do whatever he wants.
Let's talk about track number 9, Fear. This one also has a music video, and then this one features Jamie of Polaris.
This song was another one that we were sort of iffy on, just because it was a bit different. Like, we'd never really written songs that were just like straight up fast, moshy, barbarian metal. You know what I mean? Like, just caveman riffs. So once it was done, we were stoked on it because it was so heavy. Like, it's tuned down 2 steps from what we usually are. So it's just like insanely low and stupid. And we knew we wanted it to be a single. And then we asked Jamie to do a feature on it. It turned out like insane. That dude has crazy range. He should be in a deathcore band as well. We did the video for that with robot arm, which are like this like mechanical robot thing that's programmed to move in certain ways really quickly. So when we were filming the video, it was like you had to stand in the same spot, otherwise you're going to risk getting absolutely clobbered by this thing. So like, it was crazy filming it because we were just like having to sort of just vibe it out in one spot while this thing's just going nuts around us. Yeah, we flew Jamie down to do the video, and he was an absolute trooper because we'd been filming since like 6 a.m. or something. And then we expected him to do his part relatively quickly, and we ended up having to smash it out like 20 minutes before he had to leave for his flight home. So he basically just like turned up, sat around for like 8 hours, and then did his part really quick and then had to go to the airport. So felt really bad for that, but he got it done and he killed it.
And so this was another one that you kind of had to reshape in the edit, right? And there was separate filming occasions to make this one work.
Yeah. Bailey is completely CG. They just filmed him in front of a green screen doing everything. Same with Mickey. And basically because when we filmed it all, we'd have the robot arm basically doing all the movements it needed to do. So we basically filmed a version of the music video with no one in front of where we were playing. The arm was just filming nothing. So we've got versions of every single member, but like they're not there. So it was easy to just sort of, well, not easy, I'm not going to say that because Mickey did a massive effort to do it, but it was like, I guess, easier for them to get Bailey sort of put into that music video in Dylan's space and whatever. So yeah, it was a big undertaking, but they got it done and it looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. And what I love about this track is that like beeping noise. It sounds like this kind of alarm, and it's just like, it kind of gets stuck in my head. I love that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of weird stuff like that hanging around the background. I think True Life also has a siren in it. It's just to like induce paranoia. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that sprinkled in the songs. It's awesome.
And then the last track, Prenc Lift. This one has like a really cool, you know, ambient soft intro, and then it builds up to like a really powerful climax, and it's got some really deep, devastating lyrics as well. So do you want to talk about this track?
Yeah, I think that track lyrically was a very personal one for Bailey. I know that for a fact. He was very connected to those lyrics, but we wanted a really strong closer for the album because I feel like with Conduit, we did pretty well for the most part, but the last song was pretty weak. And we weren't happy with how we sort of ended that process. So we wanted to make something that really matched the intensity of the album as a whole, but closed it off really nicely. And I did those sort of chord progressions at the start that were really like eerie and just like, I don't know, sort of creating a vibe. They're a little bit like Western sounding, but yeah, spooky at the same time. So we started with that, and then I was like, let's just keep building it up constantly for the whole song. So it never like entirely gets to the point where it's a massive payoff, but it's just always building this like really intense atmosphere.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it's an excellent closing track, really climactic and epic. Yeah. And what would you say the message of the band is, or maybe one thing people could take away from listening to your music?
One thing they could take away from listening to the music. Heavy is good. I don't know.
And I gotta ask, is there any other Easter eggs on Introsphere? Any secret tracks? Because when I heard Repulsed, I was so stoked on that rad surprise. I actually love that track.
Yeah. No, there's not. I wish there was, but yeah, that track, it was a B-side that we wanted to release at some point in the future, but yeah, we wanted to also put it in a really cool way, but we didn't have anything like that in Introsphere because we sort of got to the point where those 10 songs were ones that we were really happy with, and we felt like if we added or subtracted anything from that, it would take away from the entire album as an experience. So yeah, unfortunately not, but you know, maybe in the future we'll do something similar. I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah, for sure. And so what's next for you guys? I see you have a tour starting up with In Heart's Wake and Paleface.
Yeah, so that's In Heart's Wake, Paleface, and King 810. So that's a big tour. I think the guys are doing that, and then whatever happens for the rest of the year, I'm not sure if there's anything planned, but we're writing music again. So whether it's an EP or an album, not sure, but we're looking to release it fairly soon. So we're basically just going to make up for lost time and, you know, hopefully come out with something super heavy, super awesome pretty soon, and just hope that we can build on the momentum that this album could possibly create as well. So
yeah, for sure, man. Well, when you guys do, or when Gravemind does eventually come to the US, I'll be first in line. And yeah, thanks so much for taking the time with me, dude. It's been super fun chatting with you, and it means a lot that you guys stuck through it and came out with this album. It's been well worth the wait.
No stress at all, dude. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to welcome any new listeners to the podcast and let you know that there's lots more metalcore band interviews coming soon, including the Swedish band Alt. So be sure to follow the show and keep up with me on social medias at Spencer Whiteout to stay up to date. Also, be sure to leave a rating/review. 5 stars is a power play. As always, stay tuned, stay hyped. That's a wrap.
And that's it.